So why have a GRE at all? Yeah, so here's, I'll talk a little bit more. Here's how we think about that number. It is a noisy but not completely informationless measure about your aptitude as a student, right? I can guarantee you, I mean, we have students who we accepted who have shockingly low GRE scores in maybe one of the two domains, right? But it's because there are reasons for that, and because we really do look at what the capacity is, we think from a research perspective. I would say that that's an extreme example, right? In the kind of 5 years that I've been doing this, we've accepted maybe one of those students. But it's not the only measure. That said, I will say most of our students have really high GRE scores, right? But it's not the only thing we look at. The vast majority of our students are full-time. We do occasionally accept exceptional part-time students. You know, my pitch for being a full-time PhD student is this. As Cliff said, it's a really hard job, and it's a hard thing to engage in, and it's a hard thing to balance a whole lot of really heavy-duty coursework and a whole lot of really heavy-duty research and make it all new. That said, I realize there's a huge, you're all probably out there working right now, and there's a huge opportunity cost to your income to take that hit and potentially to your career. So the students that we have accepted in a part-time basis are really those whose job is very well linked to research, right? And so that occasionally works. We really try not to do that, though. So I think the websites are definitely the best way to start. We're pretty good about keeping our website current and up to date, and at least the general areas that each of these faculty are doing. I think after that, you can absolutely reach out to them and copy Diana or Diana Beck or myself on those emails. And so you shouldn't feel shy about doing that. It's not to say that to be admitted here, you have to have had 5 conversations with a faculty member already. That's not what this is about. But if you're curious about the fit and want to know and want to kind of engage with this faculty member, I think that's a great thing to do. You should choose a PhD program largely, at least in a very large way, on the faculty member, right? And do you like them? And do you want to work with them? And do they want to work with you? And do you like how they think about questions and topics and approaches? I think those are hugely important things as you're thinking about a PhD program, and they can really make or break your career. And so we've had students before who have told us, I really wanted to live in California, but this person is exactly what I want to do here at NYU, and I think the students who go to California are worse off for it. Consider. I mean, I think that there's nothing that we say we will never accept a student in X, but there are many things probably where we say we don't have a fit. I mean, so we don't do it as a blanket rule, but we do it as there's not a fit in this perspective. I'm not going to be quick enough on my feet to think about exactly what that is, right? And there's a huge diversity of the faculty, and I'm pretty good at keeping up what all 35, 40 of us are doing, but not perfect at it. And so I think the best thing to do is really delve into the websites and talk to myself or Diana and these faculty members who feel like they might be a fit and see if it's there. But I can't think of an area right now that says we will never accept a student in X area, because we don't do that. Because I think we do a lot of things. There are probably a handful of things we don't do, and when a student is very narrow in their interest as well, obviously that becomes harder and harder to find the fit there. So those are where it tends to be problematic. I think we want enough to know that you know how to think about this, and you know what the interesting questions are. But again, essays that read, here's exactly what I want to look at, here's exactly the statistical model I want to build, don't tend to read that well. I think you need to give us enough to know that you are engaged enough thinker to understand what the questions are, maybe give some illustrative questions of what you might look at or think about, but you don't have to say, and you shouldn't say, here's a very narrow micro sort of, here's the first paper of my dissertation, for example. That's not the kind of thing that we're looking for. The best thing you can do is send us something that shows us how you think as a researcher. Right, that's very broad, and I can talk about it a little bit more, but in general it's something that tells us here's how they think about problems, here's how they think about questions, here's how they think about approaches. I think that's probably the most important thing than it being in the exact topic area you think about. I think you can make clear in your statement why you want to go in a different direction than maybe you've shown you can go in your statement, in your writing sample. But I think the most important thing to do is to really show us how you think about it, how you think about research. I think most people aren't constructing new things, right, Diana? Most of the time we're getting something that they've written for prior coursework, a report they've written for their jobs, things like that. So I'd say the vast majority of the time it's that. I mean, that said, if you wrote some knockout paper right now, would we turn it down or look at it differently because it's new? Absolutely not. But I think most people have traditionally done something that they've done in the past. So I think that's always a problem. Right, and you know, unfortunately, because we take this fit thing really seriously, we really do make sure that there's someone who you can work with. Now, what's happened in the past is that a person will say, you know, I am about to be on sabbatical next year, but I would love to work with this person when I get back from sabbatical, and here are the here are the people they can work with in the interim while I'm gone. That works sometimes, and sometimes faculty members will do that. But if the faculty member says, you know, I really can't, I don't have the capacity to take on a student for the next 4 years, then I don't know that we would be the right school for you, unfortunately. Because again, we really do want to make sure everyone we take is well matched with the interests of our faculty and vice versa. Most joint appointees are not necessarily full-time advisors for Wagner students. There's a couple of examples where that is the case. But what does happen a lot is there is a full-time Wagner faculty and a jointly appointed faculty that come together to co-advise a student. That's great, right? You know, we are an interdisciplinary school. We do a lot of work across the various schools of NYU, and so that's great for us. If you said, though, you know, the primary person I want to talk with is this person in school X who's only loosely connected to Wagner, maybe doesn't teach here, doesn't do a lot here, that would be a hard sell, right? You know, I think you do need to have a full-time or a heavily involved person here at Wagner as kind of one of your core people. It's always better to have someone that knows you better than knows you worse, right? I think that's a big thing. And again, someone who can speak to your capacity as a researcher, I think is really important, or potential for doing that. And I think someone that is, you know, bad letters, if you will, are someone who doesn't know you that well, and or said this person did this really great thing that we know is totally unconnected from the stuff you're going to do here. Right, that's less than ideal.